Good morning. My name is Gia, and I'd like to walk you through how to use Typing Agent as a teacher. This video is aimed for teachers whose district admins or administrators have already added your students into the program. The key thing for you to know is your students must log on into an area where your district or your school's name will be clearly visible. If they go onto typingagent.com, that is the wrong place. So teach them always to look for your school's name or your district's name before logging in. You can log in using Google, Microsoft, Clever, or ClassLink. So those are possible, but make sure your students log in at the correct place. I'm going to log in. I don't need to worry about these teacher self-registration or student self-registration because your students are already in the program. Note, however, teachers, if you ever forgot your passwords, you just can go and click the forgot passwords and we'll send you a link to your email address. So I'm going to log on as a teacher and I'm going to land immediately to this dashboard. On this dashboard, you can see how many average minutes or lessons were done. You can click on these and it will give you information based on your class or at the grade level area. I return to my roster. I can always click here to go to see the list of the students who are in my classes. However, this hamburger at the far right, far left, that's my friend. I can click on there to see whichever classes I'm in at any particular time. I'm going to go back to this dashboard because, again, I just want to bring your attention to a few things. So hamburger, as I told you, this is where you would find your classes. If ever you wanted to search for a particular class, you can use this search feature. Once you've done, you can click that off. The demo student here is for you to always use if you ever wanted to explore Typing Agent. No, you do not go in and log in as a student who's in your class, or that will skew your data. You always want to use this demo student button to go and explore the program. The roster, as I showed you before, it will take you back to see all the students in your class. And then finally, for this line here, this is, if I click the drop-down menu next to your name, you can go and click on your profile to change your username password. If you worked in multiple schools, this is where you can switch from one school to the other. This demo student button is the exact same thing as you would find here. And again, we do that twice, so you'll have no excuse to use your students' login details. And then our Solution Center, this is where you'll get all your help materials. And finally, the log out button. That is how you will log out of the program. If I were to scroll down, the dashboard always again brings me back to this page. And if ever I wanted to click on reports, I can click on here and I can view different reports that are in the program. I'm going to click on my dashboard and I'm going to go to, say, a grade 4 class. If I have a large screen, you will see an X here. You can click off on this if you don't want to see it, or you can just log off on anywhere and click on any other part of the screen to close that feature out. When I click on a class, I will see the students who are in this particular class. Note that this plus button is here. These are if I wanted to add additional students in my class. However, my district or my administrator has already done that, so I should not have to worry about that feature. If ever I wanted to go in and log on a particular student, if, for example, I had a special needs student, I can always go click on that student's name and click accommodations. But note all these other possibilities that are here for my students. A key thing here I want to draw your attention to is this print login cards. If your students are going to use Typing Agent at home, do print those cards out. It's going to give them the correct web address, their usernames and passwords. You just print that out, send that off to them, and they would be they'll be able to use Typing Agent at home. The accommodations, as I was telling you, this is where I would click on and make adjustments for my special needs students. And in particular, this target settings is there already. Typing Agent has already SMART goals set for whatever your grade level your students are at. We have SMART goals in there already, so you don't need to worry about them. If your district person has done them, they've set your district-based goals. So, however, if you have a special needs student who's really uber fast or uber slow, you can come in here and make adjustments for this particular student. I know a rule of thumb for typing agent is we're 5 words per minute per grade level. So if this is a 4th grade, our average words per minute to gain 2 stars will be 20 words per minute at 85% accuracy. So I can go in, if this student is particularly slow, I can change them, instead of 20 words per minute, I can change them to 15 words per minute, or whatever you think is feasible for that student. I would suggest give them a chance, see how they fare, and in certain reports, if you see that they're really doing poorly, you come in and make adjustments here in this particular area. Note that you can, our standard proficiency is 2 stars. That corresponds to this area here. And you can set the number of retries that you want your student to have. We typically have no number of retries because the program is set so simply that if students take their time, type accurately from the get-go, they will meet the standards. If they try to go too quickly, then they will have issues. Once you have the settings that you like, you click apply, and then those will be registered for this particular student, Samantha Boer. I can click on settings here if I wanted to change any particular settings for my students. If I wanted to, for this particular student, if I wanted to do any changes in the game feature. In the accessibility, this is where your students have even more special needs. If you need to adjust the font for, say, a dyslexic student, I can put this font here, and the font on that particular student's typing agent account will show up so that they won't have that typical dyslexic problems or problems with dyslexia. The font size can go from small, or if you have a student who's severely visually challenged, you can put it on low vision, and the program will adjust so that the contrast is good for those students there. If you have a student with one hand, you can make the adjustments so that that student can also learn to type with the left or the right hand. And these other features here, once you've made adjustments, click that apply feature and you can go on. So that's for that. In my settings, if ever your students lost the passwords, this is where you would come. You would click here, show passwords, update that, and then go back to your students page on this tab here, and you will see that the passwords will show. We suggest once you've retrieved the passwords that you need, go back to your settings, click this here for your student security, and update this so that next time you go here, your passwords show up as this. You know, teachers, we're never in one place at a time, and we may leave our computers on, so we don't want other students seeing one another's passwords. So just for their security, keep that in place, that it's off. In terms of curriculum, you go here, and how typing agent is set this school year is we're going to give all students will have a test of some sort. For kids in grades 3 and above, we give them 2 tests. The first test is a placement test, and with the placement test, depending on how well they do, that's going to be either 1 to 3 minutes. So the first test they do is only on home row. We do that for a minute, and those who get through it shorter than a minute, we then move them on to the top row. If they ace that in less than a minute, we will then send them on to the bottom row. If they ace that, then we'll give them lots of sentences and paragraphs to do. Depending on how they do on that placement test, we will put them in typing agent. So for instance, you'll notice that we have an adaptive curriculum and these different paths that the kids will take. So for example, if I'm on, say, a 3rd grade class and I did that placement test and I was placed on path A, I go to my main lesson, and note these icons do mean something. So if I tested at the home row and only, then this is what my lesson will look like for 3rd grade, sorry. However, if I tested, say, on path D, which tells me that I pretty much ace a lot of my lessons and I go to the same lesson 1.4, this is what my lesson will look like. So the program really adapts to each student's individual levels, so you don't need to worry about customizing it or doing anything for them. Permit the program to do that for you. So note these little icons, they do mean something. So typing agent, note we have 31 worlds that the kids do. And although this says lessons, I like thinking of these as units. So instead of lessons, think of these as units, and then these are the number of lessons within my unit. So in world 1, I have 10 little units, and each unit, or each in these lessons, you have multiple lessons within each unit. So I can go, I look at this and I see that this, whenever I see this icon, I know this is where a lesson is being taught. So we're modeling what's going to happen, or what letters or how the student should be typing those lessons. This here is a star destroyer lesson, or a star striker, I like to call it. What it does is we're just getting kids to practice those new letters with which they're introduced. So if they're just learning FJ, the program's going to model for them how to type FJ. Then they're going to have to do a star striker activity where they just practice using those fingers, and just the fingers that will type the FJ anchors. They're going to practice those letters. Whenever you see this means that there's a game, and the game will again just get them practicing those letters they're learning. Whenever you see this keyboard, this means that this is a main lesson. This is where we're going to get our reports. This is how we generate our reports. So you can use these for formative assessments whenever you're in the program. So this is the key thing you need to worry about when grading is being done. If ever you were to see this means that there's a video that's the children will see first, and the video will be linked to what they're learning. And finally, the type up lesson is a game where the students get to practice the letters that they have missed, the most frequently missed letters within those lessons that they've done. Now, many teachers get disappointed, or they want students to just jump around. Well, that if children are not ready to do FJ, why have them do SL if they're not finding FJ properly? So just let them trust the path. Trust the course that the students will get where you want them to be if they practice regularly, and just short spurts of time, 5 to 10 minutes, or you can use it as an introductory lesson once your students come into the lesson, but give them the printout card so they can also practice at home if they were to have computers there. I'm going to click back on my grade 4 class, go back to settings, and I was on curriculum. And notice here for teachers, if you, for instance, a grade 3 class should not really have access to the K2 Mountain, but if you have a grade 3 student who's really, really struggling, you can click on that student's name and remove that grade, the Keyboarding Foundations 3+ from that student, and then assign that student to the K2 area. Note, I said that the students will have, your 3+ students will have 2 tests. That placement test that I told you about. There's also a diagnostic test that all students will have. That is K2 and 3+ students. This is your baseline test. This is what every student, no matter what, has to do, and it's 2 minutes long. So some teachers may say, oh, my kindergarten kids, it's too hard for them. Well, your kindergarten students have not learned to type. It's okay. Anything that's above this skill level that they've not learned is hard. But after they climb the first mountain, it will be easier for them because they would have learned some of the skills. So remember, the baseline test is 2 minutes only. So hang in there, let them be accurate more than speedy, and the program will move on. Well, after they've done that diagnostic test, it will automatically move them to the correct lesson. If your kindergarten students, I know they're working towards 3 words per minute, I think at 70% accuracy. So all they need to do is press 1 or 2 keys accurately, and that will open it up for them. For the 3 threes and over, however, the assessment or baseline test is based on your goals. So again, just tell them they don't need to do everything quickly, but they do need to be accurate when they're finding those keys. I'm going to click now to reports, because this is what is key for a lot of teachers. This is what you need to concern yourself on. This progress report, I click on that. I click if I'm looking at a 3rd grade class or grades 3 and above, click the keyboarding foundations. And this here tells me a summary of what my students have done. These are based on the targets that we had set for what would be 1 star, 2 star, 3 stars. And remember, we're really wanting our students to be silver medalists or more, and more will be to get a gold star. If ever you see a bronze or 1 star, it means that your students are getting there, but they're not quite there. So all these 1-star people, I would encourage them to go and redo these activities before they can move on. Whenever you see a 1/2 star, it just means that they're working on it. Note that you can always export these results to a CSV file. This here, again, this tells you what your students are doing. This gives you a summary. For those who like to have a little bit more detail, this here will tell you where your students are, how much time they've spent in the program, where they are, that in terms of the whole program or their curriculum for that particular grade level. It tells you their average words per minute and the grade that they've achieved for this. Now, you remember, if your administrator has done this, we'll just pull the results based on what they have done. This here comes your grade book. If ever you wanted to see or get an idea of where your students are, just pull the grade book up and we'll do that for you. Teachers often need to see this activity log. The activity log tells you exactly what your students have done, or what, like for example, if you're working with many teachers in your school and you see that something looks a bit different in your students' environment, just click the activity log. It's going to tell you which teacher or administrator did what. You can always go and have that conversation with the teacher or administrator and ask them why did they do certain things if you don't quite agree with it. And then teachers, if you're sitting behind your desk and your kids are working on Typing Agent, then this activity log, and click on student activity, is going to tell you which activities your students have at their disposal. Look at the time and the date, and it's going to tell you basically who's doing what and where on that particular day. Or if, for example, this Nancy logged into, say, a game on September 6th at this time. If you were working on today's date, you would look for today's date and you'll see where that student is. We suggest, however, don't sit behind your desk. Do walk around and watch exactly what your students are doing. There's no better teacher than you. You need to walk around, watch what the students are doing, and model for them if necessary, or encourage them to do the correct technique when they're learning to type. So I think teachers, that's what you really, really need to get started with typing agent, but please do go and explore. You will not break anything. The best way to learn a program is to go in there and do it yourself. So do click on that demo student button. This is what your students will see. You can click on any of those particular activities and do it yourself. One thing that I want to draw your attention to is this exit button. A lot of teachers will say, well, we don't know how to find how to get out of the program, or our students don't know how to do it. So this is what you will do. This is the assessment test, the baseline test. Note that it's red. If ever your students have done this, this will show up as green, and these are what your students will be working towards. This here, this phone home button, this is how your students, if they're in the program, they click that to get to this exit screen. They click exit and they'll be taken out of the typing agent page. So I want to thank you for just taking a look at Typing Agent. I should have shown you, if ever you wanted to chat with us, just let me show you that button. If ever you wanted to chat with us, this chat button here at the bottom right, you can always click on there and send your question to us. Or we have multiple articles in there, just put your search words in there, send it to us, and we will answer you. You can always write us at support@typingagent.com or use here, and we'll be happy to answer your question. We wish you a successful year with Typing Agent, and if ever you had questions or concerns, don't ever feel ashamed or scared to write us, because there's no such thing as a stupid question, and it's just for you to become familiar with the program. I am Gia, and you have a great year this year with Typing Agent. Until I hear from you, you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.